Manius Augustus Calgar is the chapter master of the Ultramarines and the current defender of Ultramar, the sub-empire within the Imperium consisting of 500 worlds in total, including the world of Macragge, the home world to the Ultramarines chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. Manius Calgar was a figure whose authority was absolute amongst the warriors of his chapter, until the return of the Ultramarine Primarch Roboute Guilliman. Since Guilliman's return, the Primarch has been more or less micromanaging nearly every task being undertaken within his chapter, and has been undermining Calgar's own authority, in addition to reprimanding the chapter master for even the smallest of mistakes. Calgar, by extension, has also shown to be growing more and more angered by his Primarch's actions, notably due to being overlooked for certain tasks that would bring honour and glory to those who would undertake them, as well as finding the seemingly casual way that Roboute Guilliman treats sacred relics of the chapter, despite them being his own personal possessions, as inherently disrespectful to the past masters and battle brothers of the chapter. Given the seemingly growing enmity between Primarch and chapter master, could Calgar either attempt to secede from the Ultramarines and the Imperium, or potentially even fall to chaotic corruption? There are several events that take place during the events of the novel Dark Imperium that seem to be strongly hinting towards such an eventual outcome. The first of which takes place within the city of Illyria upon Macragge. A group of dissidents had holed themselves up within the Museo Illyricus, the museum of Macraggian history. While they had rebelled, the dissidents claimed that they only wished to talk peacefully, despite the fact that they had a virus bomb with them, although this one in particular was filled with various other biological agents as opposed to the Life Eater virus used for Exterminatus. Calgar noted that the majority of these dissidents were fairly young, no older than 20 and some as young as 11 standard years old. After dealing with these rebels, Calgar receives word that Guilliman's fleet is returning to Ultramar, and when Calgar prepares to mobilise to join his Primarch's side, he is ordered to remain on Macragge, which fills Calgar with great anger and shame. Calgar is officially told that not only is he to prevent any opportunistic assaults on Macragge, but more damningly, that Guilliman does not want nor need Calgar's aid, which Calgar admits to himself that this makes him feel like a failure. Following this news, Calgar, seemingly out of spite, orders the execution of many of the captured rebels, when these rebels would normally be forced into re-education facilities or sent to forced labour camps. Now, while it could be argued that these rebels were tainted by chaos and thus needed to be purged, mass execution, while common throughout the majority of the Imperium, seems drastic and out of character for the more civilised people of the Ultramar system. Later upon Macragge, Guilliman would host the Council of Hera, held within the halls of Maxellus. The attendees of this council would include Roboute Guilliman, Manius Calgar, as well as chapter masters and representatives from various other Ultramarine successor chapters, such as the Howling Griffins, Aurora chapter, Sons of Aura, Nova Marines, and many others, along with members of the Inquisition, the Knightly Houses of Ultramar, the Imperial Navy, and the Astra Militarum. Here, Guilliman would discuss the ending of the Indomitus Crusade, and the beginning of the Ultramar cleansing. He would describe how internal conflicts were appearing within Ultramar, and even upon Macragge, seemingly without end. These particular comments were seemingly directed towards Manius Calgar personally, admonishing him for his failures to keep down the growing amount of dissent upon the Ultramarines' homeworld.
I am saddened that those worlds attacked or overrun within our sphere of influence remain without help, while the war grinds on here, seemingly without resolution.
Guilliman would give everyone assembled, Calgar included, a damning glare of disappointment and anger. Manius Calgar would even think to himself that while he had never really encountered failure, by now he was now becoming extremely intimate with it, and that the Primarch's accusations had essentially robbed the glory from all of his past successes. Guilliman would then go on to reinstate the Tetrarchs, naming the captains Agamemnon and Felix of the Ultramarines, Captain Porton of the Genesis chapter, and Captain Balthus of the Doom Eagles as the 4 Tetrarchs, while Manius Calgar would remain upon the crag to rule there. Despite this seeming promotion to the rank of 5th Tetrarch, Manius Calgar saw that the Primarch was, in fact, scolding him, as if he could not be trusted to undertake any other missions or crusades outside of Macragge itself for fear of failing once more, something that would indeed wound the chapter master's own psyche. Guilliman would then decree that he would remain upon Macragge for a little while longer to make sure that the tasks he delegated were being undertaken correctly.
I will let my attention linger a little longer in our home, until I am satisfied.
Manius Calgar found these words to be of a subtle and humiliating rebuke, for this meant, in his own eyes, that he was not trusted enough by the Primarch to make sure that the tasks appointed to him would be undertaken correctly. The fact that Manius Calgar might very well be taking his first steps along the Eightfold Path is also hinted at earlier in the novel, during a battle between the Primaris Marines of Captain Decimus Felix and the traitorous hordes of the Death Guard Legion within the hive city of Ardium. When Captain Felix states he has nothing but hatred for the Death Guard Legion and has fought the forces of Chaos multiple times, Codicier Maxim of the Aurora chapter warns Captain Felix of the dangers and the subtleties of falling to chaotic corruption with the following quote:
"Then you are very much in danger. Its effects can be unpredictable. Do not expect your seducer to wear the same form as your enemy. It will use your mind against you in any way it can, and only when it has you snared will the power that wishes to rule this place make its play, to tempt you into its own perverse twisting of reality. More life to kill your enemies, more flesh to withstand pain, so you might kill again and again, forever. You are a warrior, so the Dark Gods will use your belligerence, your loyalty, and your honor against you, no matter which of them you are unfortunate to cross."
The fact that this specific point is brought up between two events featuring Calgar and his growing resentment seems to hint towards the fact that Calgar is very subtly falling into a trap set by the ruinous powers. Not only that, but there's also another thing to factor in towards Calgar's potential chaotic corruption. His weapons of choice, the gauntlets of Ultramar. These twin power fists with integrated bolters were claimed by Roboute Guilliman as trophies when Guilliman slew a Chaos champion during the Gammalia Reclusium massacre. The gauntlet's inner workings are unknown, as no Magus of the Adeptus Mechanicus has ever succeeded in disassembling its thick adamantium casing to study how it operates. However, since these weapons were recovered from a Chaos champion, then it's entirely possible that they could have a demonic entity bound within them, in essence making them a form of demon weapon. This wouldn't be the first case of a chapter master of the Adeptus Astartes utilizing weapons taken from champions of chaos. The chapter master of the Space Wolves, Logan Grimnar, utilises as his weapon of choice the Axe of Morkai, which was reforged from the axe of a Chaos champion Grimnar himself slew in single combat. The Axe of Morkai is also known to be a demon weapon, possessing a demon of Khorne bound within it, for the original blade was forged by Khorne himself. This was proven further during the siege of the Fenris system, when the Axe of Morkai managed to wound the demon Primarch Magnus the Red, and indeed was the only weapon capable of doing so. And not only that, but the Blood God himself laughed in great amusement at that fact. But surely if the gauntlets of Ultramar contained the essence of a demon bound within them, then wouldn't the corruption of Marneus Calgar taken hold long before now? Not necessarily. When not being used, the gauntlets of Ultramar are locked away within the fortress of Hera in a shrine to Roboute Guilliman deep within the Temple of Correction. As such, the demonic entity within the gauntlets would not have as much time to corrupt an individual compared to a demon weapon always in the possession of its wielder. Even then, a chapter master falling to chaos seems almost unthinkable, but not impossible. Multiple chapter masters have fallen to chaos in the past. One such example is Sevastas Cranon of the Crimson Sabres, now known as the Crimson Slaughter. Some chapter masters have even turned to chaos, even while a remainder of their chapter remained loyal to the Imperium, such as Azariah Kairos of the Blood Ravens chapter. Perhaps the combination of demonic corruption from his weapon of choice, along with the constant self-doubt and anger due to being reprimanded for the tiniest misgiving, his growing anger towards his Primarch attitude towards the chapter and its relics, as well as being passed over continuously in favour of other warriors for tasks and roles that would bring great honour, and instead being made into nothing more than a glorified caretaker, the latter of which being very similar to what happened to Luther, the arch-traitor of the Dark Angels Legion, could cause Calgar to, at the very least, go renegade, severing all ties to his chapter and Primarch while still remaining loyal to the Imperium. But it seems more likely that Guilliman will fall to the subtle temptations of chaos itself, causing this noble warrior of the Imperium to become a cruel and brutal champion of the Chaos Gods. What do you think? Could Calgar be taking his first steps along the Eightfold Path? Or is this all just a coincidence? Leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.